This week on New to You, Spring, Part 3,
Boing.
Ultimate.
Frisbee!
No, I'll cut that because Ultimate.
No, Frisbee!
Hey everybody, welcome to
Forever.
Hey everybody, welcome to the third in our spring episode. We've already had Ferdinand the Bull and Mates of States rearrange us. I am one of your hosts, John Holtz. You can find me on this podcast where we review all kinds of media stuff.
If you're looking, you can find him.
So with me is...
I'm one of your other hosts, Keith Vincent, and...
Julian Cage.
And I'm your special guest, Mary Varn.
All right, welcome, Mary.
Thanks for being special, man.
All right. So, we are a review and rating podcast. We've been rolling on spring picks. And so why don't we go right into mine?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
What's your
Ultimate
pick?
Frisbee.
Meet some fantastic Frisbee flingers. These men and women turn the simple act of throwing a Frisbee into a fine art.
Let's go back. Ooh. The year is 1938. Ferdinand the Bull wins Best Picture.
39.
A man and his wife,
Post
a
animated
man
short.
named Fred Morrison, is on the beach throwing a pie tin around for pleasure and enjoyment. Some kids walk up and offer him 25 cents for his new toy. And he says, heck, we paid 5 cents for that pie tin, and they want to pay us a quarter. We could make money at this. From there on in, he starts selling his flying discs. Goes off to war, shot down, and becomes a POW. While there, he devises a way to make his flying disc more aerodynamic.
He's really keeping this up.
He returns stateside.
Newsreel.
The March of War. He returns stateside and starts a mold and a process for making these flying discs. Names them like flying saucers and disc saucers, that kind of stuff, and finally settles on the Pluto platter, which is probably the closest equivalent to what we know now is like a modern frisbee
disc.
So in 1957, he gets a patent in place and sells the concept and the patent to license it to Wham-O. And right off the bat, they name it the Frisbee and the name for Frisbee is because in the Northeast, kids have been throwing around these pie tins that were specifically from the Frisbee Pie Company that were sold to people at Yale and in and around the Northeast at colleges. So in colleges, they were already throwing around these pie tins like toys before, there was already this toy aspect sort of around those. But
So do you know anything about that? So where are they? So when I think of a pie tin, I think of the aluminum foil thing with the crimped end. Do you think it was like that, or do you think it was more of a substantial metal?
It was
kind
a
of
little. It was a little more substantial,
Okay.
but it was still probably pressed
Right.
aluminum
Very
or
thin,
very
yeah.
thin gauge steel or something. And so it had a little lip, and that helped a lot with the aerodynamics, but it had, it's sort of like when you see a flying saucer and it's an upside down pie tin, that's what you're looking at.
We all saw Back to the Future Part 3. We know the genesis of this.
Well, Back to the Future Part 3 puts it 30, 40 years or more, like
1885, I believe.
Oh yeah. So yeah, at least 50 years before the inception of the actual toy is when they're purporting it.
Wow, so Jules just pulled one up. Yeah, it's a lot more substantial than I would have than what I think of.
I mean,
when
those
I
are
think
still
of a pie tin.
still small tin. I mean, the tin is probably an 8-inch or
Okay.
something.
Looks like it could chop your head off.
I could imagine the sound must be really fun, like a ping kind of a sound.
When it clocks you.
Oh no, when you catch it, you'd have to
yeah.
ping. You would still make the sound.
So
So this guy, as a POW, I guess he just had time on his hands. He's just planning it.
pilot, and he just thought about what could I do to make this thing more aerodynamic. They just
using aircraft technology.
Yeah, exactly. But they started printing.
I love that the guy that kind of invented the Frisbee was a pilot and he drove planes.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. I love it.
And they they crafted it, and it used to have like planets or something on the outer rim, and they took that off, and that actually like the more mold, when it went from being like the Pluto platter to the Frisbee that we know of, it got just better, like a stronger aerodynamics to it. So anyhow, the way Frisbees work is that they spin, and the gyroscopic force allows them to
stay
level, and basically if they stop spinning, they stop flying. So they stay level.
Yes and no. As long as it's up in the air, if it's not spinning, it'll still float, just not with any degree of control or stability.
And then
because it's still gliding.
Right. And then the shape, the fact that it has the lips to it, makes it's designed so that basically a gyroscopic thing, depending on the spin, is going to move in the direction of that spin kind of thing. Like it'll have movement. So what this does is it stabilizes that as well. So it really will stay level and should go, a well-balanced Frisbee will go straight. That's kind of how they're built to go.
As long as you release it straight.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and there are actually, like in Frisbee golf, there are Frisbees that are made to not go straight. They're designed to hit banks and to curve.
Well, they're designed to, there's any level of differences, but a lot of them are designed to, so in a natural Frisbee throw, it's eventually going to lose spin and start to tip to one direction. So they have a lot of disc golf discs that are weighted to kind of negate some of that.
And just like drop a little more straight.
Yeah. So your most talented disc throwers, it's going, just because of the nature of the disc itself, once it stops spinning, it's going to tilt. It's gonna there's a word for it, Hauser or Heiser or something like that. But a lot of the discs are designed to kind of negate some of that, so they're kind of counterbalanced to battle that.
The next step in our story, one of the marketing geniuses at Whammo was this guy, Steady Ed Hedrick. So old Steady Ed Hedrick was the guy who started the competitive league of Frisbee playing. And the sports that, and again, to go to Frisbee, that's their patent. That's their flying disc is the Frisbee.
Yeah, but it's not their patent though. It's the other guy's patent.
It's Morrison's patent. Okay. But Steady Ed is the guy who started the sports thing. But anyhow, their disc is the Frisbee, and to not confuse their trademark or their brand, it's like we were joking, but calling Kleenex a tissue called Kleenex. Yeah. Once you start to confuse that, they lose their brand. They've already had to fight for their brand. And it's already becoming disambiguous. Anyhow, that'll come into the next part.
And that's good for the commons. Sure. That's good for everybody. Honestly, it really is.
So Steady Ed starts the sports thing. The sort of main sports were stuff like guts and what else? Like double disc, double square. So there's a few different, like not what Ultimate is, but basically there's a game called Double Square where you're a team of two people and you have a big rectangular field, and on either side within that field is a small square, like a not super small, but like a square that
it's kind of like horseshoes.
Sort of, but it's actually more that like if me and you are on a team against Mary and Jules, the Frisbees we don't want the Frisbee to land in our square, because if it lands on our square,
neat.
that's bad. But if we're both holding both Frisbees at the same time, we also lose. So there's like all these kind of rules about you just got to keep it flying.
Wow, I like that.
It's cool. And then Guts, I think Guts was another competitive one, but that's one where there's a square of space where they're trying to get the Frisbee into, and it's sort of like dodgeball where everyone is allowed, like there's almost like a whistle blow where everyone's allowed to get in position to try to like create like a way to block the disc. So your goal,
but they can't move once the disc is thrown.
You're frozen, and then now the people get to throw discs. So they're trying to like bounce them off you and all this stuff.
Cool.
So I think that's how it works. It's kind of like dodgeball.
Or they're trying to bend it around you.
Yeah, it's
That
like
sounds
flip it over.
kind of stupid.
Yeah,
Also dangerous.
Yeah.
Like, let's throw Frisbees at
Well,
people.
you can wear pads and stuff. It's no more dangerous. It's
I
definitely
guess
not
that's
more
why it
dangerous
takes
than-
guts.
That's
Yeah,
right.
So
that makes a lot of sense now that you say it like that.
So anyhow, there's some Amherst students who kind of came up with their own rules for like a point-based throwing a frisbee around kind of sport, and this one student, Jared something, went and was teaching at a camp in like upstate, and at this camp taught this high school kid his sport. So the high school kid goes back to New Jersey, and him and his friends make ultimate frisbee, and they get it.
It kind of evolved from the evolution like. This was the third removed kind of generation.
Well, it's actually so there was this like official frisbee league of sports players, and then there was this group of like there were just frisbee fan clubs, like people playing with the stuff and just having fun. And out of one of these sort of fan club groups, just people playing it on college campuses, they had a loose rule set they played with.
But we don't know what that looked like because it hasn't survived the test.
Right.
Of time.
It was like a proto version of ultimate.
So it's kind of like
frisbee.
rugby to football.
Sure. Yeah. Or even like like a more like halfway between catch and what it became. So
the missing link.
So these kids like codified it and made a set of rules of it. That you basically have a pitch with an end zone on either side.
It's let's face it, it's a lot like football.
Right. You have two
scoring and
two teams of 7. You kick off, you do a pull where you basically throw to the other team, and then they advance by passing to one another. And once you've caught the frisbee, you're limited to a pivot on one foot. And there are specific rules, like basically the defense is you can't wrap someone. There's actually that's one of the few fouls is wrapping, where you like put your arms around them and make it so they can't do anything. Your defense is really in like blocking catches, trying to block throws, and counting to 10, because if someone doesn't release in 10, then they cede the thing. If it goes
a fumble,
if it goes out of bound, if they move, if there's like a foul, they basically just cede it's a turnover and it goes to the other team and off they go. So it's kind of like soccer meets football in that there's an end zone instead of a goal, but it's like very rapid.
A lot like lacrosse too.
Yeah. So that's so it's a little different from the football, where a lot of people have to move the ball or move the disc up and down the field.
Yeah, and it's constant motion,
right?
Like soccer,
or basketball too. Yeah, I think those kind of the things. Like basketball has a similar like traveling rule, like you have to,
But it feels a lot more like soccer in that it's a pretty big field, and it's a lot of running.
Right.
Long distances.
Right.
Because when people chuck that frisbee or that disc, the thing can just go, and you got to make sure you're there.
So these kids, it's like 1967 when these kids create this game, and they have the first sanctioned one at their school, and then it blows up, and within 10 years they're having a world championship for ultimate frisbee. So, and they're still
it's like basketball.
Yeah.
Except real.
So you had, like I passed around like this video. It was like some TV newsreel kind of thing of people like featuring frisbee players, and it's people playing. There's like freestyle frisbee at this point, and just all kinds of different ways that people were playing with these toys. And so now to get to why for me it's spring is that we played this game in high school. We played this game when me and Jules and Keith were living in San Francisco. And I don't know, did we play it much I guess we played
it every day in Brooklyn when we first moved here.
So
when the weather was good.
Yeah. So it just reminds me, basically spring for me, like one of the outside activities I really enjoy is going out and throwing a frisbee around.
Yeah.
Like it's my preference over like a standard spring sport like baseball.
Playing catch, yeah.
Yeah, where I like the fact that you only need one piece of equipment, and you don't need more than 2 people.
Yeah.
It's very fluid and flexible, and there's a lot of like skill at it, but you don't need too much skill to still enjoy yourself. Whereas, you have to have a glove, and you might need to be able to throw pretty good. Whereas this has a lot of play to it and a lot of like flexibility. And it fits like a good middle for me. But so just like when it's nice outside, anytime my family would go out, we'd have a frisbee. Yeah. Like you go out with the family, play frisbee. Just like you go down in the garage and there's a ping pong table. You go outside and there's everyone has someone has a frisbee. Like when you go to the beach, it's just inevitable. And so, for me, like outdoor activity and sort of the the drive post winter to get outside was always to get out and like toss the disc around and do something active. And yeah, so that's what I really enjoyed. When we don't get to do it very often, but like I remember when we were in Brooklyn, we would go out and play it in the park all the time.
Yeah, it was really funny because we'd go out with like just 5 of us.
Yeah,
I think
just running around back and forth.
Yeah, and it was just like 2 versus 2 ultimate frisbee.
But I forget.
And whoever would join, like whoever we would randomly encounter in the park.
I know. So in high school, we would play, and you'd have pennies, and you'd have large teams. Like it'd be like 10 people on a team, but you play on like a football field.
Yeah,
it might even be more, like 20, and it was one where, like, I could, I was good at throwing them, good at catching them, and like at the sprint, I was good at all that stuff. So it's a sport that I was pretty solid at. Like I could do a is it called a haul? But I could a huck. I could huck it, and I could also catch a huck. So that was a good place to like. That's a sport that I like really for gym. That was one I really enjoyed, and we were also
played it at gym.
Yeah, and we were also like ironically like one of my buddies would be the frizz and I'd be the bee, and we just like be stupid, and it's just sort of like it's kind of also like a goofy sport a little bit. Like it's not because
it's not the sport that jocks play,
but yeah, it's definitely a little like it's like multiplayer hacky sack kind of like
it's like between soccer and hacky sack,
right.
and the
like in terms of
scale
like
of jockness and hippiness.
Yeah, in like social the social strata of the sport. But I remember we would go in San Francisco, in Berkeley, to whatever park we could find, and spar off 3-on-3, 4-on-4, and just like run ourselves into the ground. And it was probably like the best, like the most fit I'd ever been.
And how did we not like just break our ankles 15 times on some of the places we were playing, like especially in Prospect Park, like some of those fields we were playing on?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Right.
Does spring not still come every year? Do we not still live in Brooklyn?
That's true.
Right by Prospect
yeah, but see,
Park?
he doesn't live with a bunch of us anymore.
Yeah, and we're not young anymore.
Yeah. Also, I mean, we're also talking about a time when like we didn't have like our day job allowed us to like step outside and go up the block and play for an hour for like before or after lunch or
on
in the
the
morning.
weekend. If you asked me to play frisbee, I would love to.
Oh, cool. Challenge thrown.
Except I'll be self-conscious because
oh, here comes she's walking it back,
Yeah,
y'all.
exactly.
no, I want to, but I will be I mean, that's one of the reasons I don't do that stuff anymore, because
that's why you guys got to do it, so you get better and
Right.
you're
I
not
know,
self-conscious
yeah.
about it.
I think the other side too is it was definitely easier to get out to the park and do it when like in the middle of the week. We live in a big crowded city, and you have access to a lot of space to run around and throw a frisbee and really like cut loose if it's the middle of the day on a Tuesday.
Yeah, we just took a bike ride on Easter Sunday, and it was super nice out, and it was like a obstacle
dense.
course.
Bedlam,
like
yeah.
it was like so crowded.
It was like kind of like playing Paperboy or something. Like,
Yeah.
we're just like, and here's a kid, and like here's a bike, like
And
swerving.
somebody's pulling a barbecue.
Yeah,
grill
exactly.
Yeah,
across the
that's
street.
how riding in the city feels, and that's the part I like about. That's one of the things I like about it is that you're just like always weaving and dodging and looking out for the next thing that's gonna come. That's pretty crazy.
And in those stretches where you see you have a lot of daylight ahead of you, you cherish them because you can just like finally cut loose, let loose, and just like pump as fast as you can go.
So yeah, that's my spring pick. I really enjoyed again when we were in San Francisco and we play with like Boogie Bagel, and he would just like run so fast. Everyone was
Run
like
circles around everyone.
Yeah, we were just like again probably in some of the better shape of our lives then, and it was just like very nice and very entertaining.
Yeah.
Do you remember we had a FAF show? We did one of our film festivals back in. We were all living in New York. Well, not all. The three of us were living in New York, and Matt Rodriguez, Mr. Mister, was living with us. And we had a FAF show in Boston for the first time. No, maybe it was when you guys were in San Francisco.
And you guys came out? or
No, you guys were living in San Francisco, and we had a FAF show in Boston
And
again.
the FAF Show was a cartoon festival that we ran for a few years.
And we had the old gang together finally again, and we played for Ultimate Frisbee in
Blood
Brooklyn.
Park?
Yeah. No, it
in
wasn't
Boston or Brooklyn.
In Boston.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think it was Blood Park we went to, though. Not this time. It was some school.
Huh.
Like soccer pitch or something.
Cool.
Because that was one of the few times we ever played with Navy, our pal.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So, Mary, you played Ultimate Frisbee. Have you played Ultimate Frisbee?
I don't think so. I mean, in Austin, when I was in college, I would go out and toss the Frisbee with my friends. And I think my friends were more aware of Ultimate Frisbee and the sport. And maybe we were running around a little bit doing something that I didn't understand, but that I didn't follow. No, I think we would just toss the Frisbee.
All right.
And I think when I first moved to Brooklyn, I might have tossed the Frisbee a few times with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm pretty, I'm not a sports person. When I was a kid, I was always the last chosen in kickball. So I'm kind of self-conscious about that stuff. So yeah, when I think about going out to Prospect Park on a crowded day, I'm like, and I haven't
People will see me be bad at Frisbee.
I haven't tossed and caught a Frisbee in probably over 10 years, so I'm not going to be very good at it at first.
Well, let me tell you a little something, Mary. John Holt's going to have a good Frisbee for you to throw. And a lot of people don't realize this, but the disc that you have makes a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to have an official ultimate weight and size Frisbee that's going to handle the wind. It's going to be heavy enough to go long distances. You're going to love it. You're going to be fine.
The key is you'll just put on the face mask I give you.
Yep.
And it'll in the grid of that mask, it'll just stick.
Yep.
And you won't have to use your hands. You just stand there, and it'll stick.
No, that's guts.
That's
John.
guts.
That's
It's a different game.
Is
But
it
no, I'm serious. Like,
Ultimate guts.
a lot of people, they pick up these, dollar Frisbees at the store. Nothing wrong with that.
Right. But
But they go out to the beach and try to play Frisbee and be like, this is dumb. I can't do this.
Yeah.
It's because if you get a lightweight Frisbee and there's any amount of wind, it's going to be very
Right.
frustrating.
Yeah.
But if you get the right size and shape, it's very easy. It's
like
very intuitive.
175
Yeah.
gram
Yeah.
or something. Yeah.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
No, 1.75 something. Yeah.
But, yeah. I didn't really toss Frisbees growing up in our backyards. It seems like a standard backyard is
A little small.
not quite big enough, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Me
Yeah,
and
you
my
can-
brother threw the Frisbee. Looking back, it's really weird. Me and my brother were outside throwing something to one another all the time. And Frisbee definitely was one of the things that we did a lot. And so when I met these guys, I was already 3 years into college, and somebody brought up Ultimate Frisbee, and I was just like, wait, there's something I could do with Frisbee that's not just throwing it to my brother? This is the best news I've ever heard. It wasn't really a yard as much as just some field we could throw in. As long as it didn't go in the briar patch, it was fine.
On the roof was another.
Yeah.
So when you guys were playing it in Brooklyn, you were playing Ultimate Frisbee, even though you didn't have enough people?
We would play with like five. You try to find an even team, or if not, you had like a ringer who would switch sides between points or something.
And you make your field a little smaller
Right.
and stuff
You
like
played
that.
with 5 people total? Or 5 on each team?
No,
5
a
total.
lot of times, yeah. It was all of us that lived in the same house.
Yeah.
And didn't we have an intern at some point that we played with too?
Oh, Dave? No, not David Gray. I don't know.
No,
maybe.
the other guy, I
don't
feel like it's
remember.
Blake or something like that, named
Yeah.
Blake or something. Anyway, but yeah, we had something rigged up so that one person would hop back and forth somehow, and I can't remember how
Yeah.
that was determined.
Yeah, it was.
But it was pretty much like 2 throws and there was a score,
Yeah.
Yeah.
or like an interception. But it was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. It was like even more intense running, I think. And it
Yeah,
also,
because you had to cover a lot more ground.
it also because the teams are so small, obviously it just put you on the spot a lot more. There's more pressure,
Yeah.
I think. But that was good. It helped you improve. But yeah, I was aware of it. I remember there was Ultimate Frisbee at my high school, but for some reason I never really played it until we all played it. And I think I'm still not like the best thrower, but I could run, so maybe that would help. But you definitely improve with practice. And I don't know. It's one of those like when you get a good throw, it's so satisfying.
Yeah.
And when you get it wrong, it's so frustrating. Yeah. So my most favorite is just getting a great throw that goes exactly where you want it to go. And my least favorite is when you like catch it on the tip of your fingers.
Yeah.
Just bangs the tip of your fingers. Ah, that is the worst.
Jam it.
The worst feeling.
And or my favorite is when you reach up to grab it and it bounces
Right
off
off
your
your
hand right
hand.
before you close your
Oh
hand.
yeah.
Yeah.
But the other thing that's awesome is like when you just have like an epic catch when you're like
Yeah.
like you're
Jumping.
yeah. I mean I wasn't a big diver, but like who is it? Was it Willem that like always dove every time?
I think it was Willem, yeah.
But yeah, when you just really go for it and you're making that
And then,
catch
like,
you don't
next
think you're gonna
level is
get.
like the catch and release too, where you're like you catch it in the air and you like throw it before you even come down.
Yeah, I never know.
There's that like side throw,
Yeah,
the
if you
wrist
catch it-
throw.
If you catch it like kind of on the ball of your thumb,
Yeah, you want your thumb inside the
then you can
lip.
just whip your wrist around with your thumb on there. It's the same way, but
Yeah,
It's tough. That's a tough
Yeah.
throw to get, but
yeah, that's
But
why you
it's
got to
fun.
practice. But Mary, we should do that. We should pick a Saturday and just say
Sure.
like we're gonna have a little picnic and we're gonna throw the disc.
it's true. It's
Yeah.
spring. Let's do
Yeah.
it.
spring
I'm
is
for it.
strong. Yeah. What sports do you guys associate, or what activity do you associate with spring?
I think for me, bizarrely, it's badminton because that was the thing that my sister and I did spring and summer, pretty much like the whole time in the backyard. And our thing was like, we would just like, we wouldn't really play traditionally. We would just hit it up in the air as high as it could go, and then just run around trying to catch it.
Just like
And-
keep it going.
Yeah, and it was just, I don't know, there was something super satisfying about that too. Just that,
Yeah.
and you watch it go up, 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 and
The
then,
sound,
and then it
too.
drops down. Yeah. So that's what I
Well,
associate with spring.
if you ever want to play badminton, my gym has some crazy badminton players that are so good. My gym is in Chinatown, and the Chinatown Y has like a really competitive badminton league
Oh, so
there.
that's not my style.
Oh no, but check it out. They're really cool, and they want people to come play and stuff all the time because they
But
want.
but they play indoors and there's a ceiling. You can't.
Yeah, that's
you
true.
can't hit it up
That's
high
true.
enough.
You can't hit the sun.
Yeah, they don't use French rules. I still haven't worked up the guts to play badminton with them yet because I just don't kind of want to embarrass myself or whatever.
Yeah,
but-
I've never played like that with a net and like high speed.
Was it Dave Killen that used to play radminton, where it
Yeah,
was like
yeah.
an extreme version of
Radminton.
badminton?
I thought that was a real thing, not a made up thing.
Maybe they based it on something they really played, but I thought that it was
Thought
a
it
thing that they made up.
Was it like 3-3, and then you also had like it might be like more volleyball.
I
but
feel like
also
it
there
was
might
on
have
a
been
volleyball
multiple-
net.
There might have been multiple
Yeah.
birds in play
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
That sounds familiar.
What about you, Keith? What's your spring?
Well, I love
activity?
throwing frisbee. It's a thing I've always loved. And one year in Boston, I went to EMS, and it was like on clearance or something. They had these glow in the dark
Oh,
frisbees.
man, those are some of the best.
And for some reason, this thing was, I still feel like I've never had one that's better than this because it was just the right softness too. Like, that's the thing. If you get a frisbee and it's a little hard, it's just that much harder to catch. But this thing just kind of had enough give to it when you catch it. Oh, I just love it. I miss it. Had that EMS logo with the like climbing hook thing.
Oh wait, but it wasn't an official. It was a EMS flying disc.
Oh yeah, I don't know, but it was ultimate like weight. It was
Huh.
the EMS's ultimate.
Wow.
Yeah, it was beautiful and it glowed in the dark. It was
Oh,
awesome.
yeah, you never finished that story of like why you can't say frisbee and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's really. I mean, it's like like copyright law or whatever. Basically, if you have a brand or a copyrighted name, a trademark, I guess, really is the thing, and you are Colgate, or you are Kleenex, or you are Jell-O, Hoover. Like if your name
Q-tip.
becomes synonymous, like becomes the common word for that thing, and you have not properly been trying to defend your product from that name, then someone could have an easy case to go and say, this isn't gelatin anymore. This is
all
flavorful
Jell-O.
Jell-O. This isn't facial tissue anymore. These are Kleenexes, all of them. So someone could just make Kleenex, or like there are some
Xerox
things like
is the same.
maybe aspirin or something like some things that were like snake oil labeled things that now are like the generic name.
Chapstick.
Wait, is chapstick?
It's a brand.
Yeah.
That's a brand. Wow. Okay, so that's one where right there, like it's maybe so
synonymous with the thing.
that like lip balm is a challenge for them.
But so
it's that sort of like risk of.
So is this sport not officially called ultimate frisbee?
It's just called ultimate. So you can't. That's it. Ultimate or ultimate disc. And a lot of the other sports are called now like double disc or
Stupid. It's
or
dumb.
guts disc.
If you're
What?
Frisbee, you're being really short-sighted by
I
making
don't know why
by
they didn't
fighting
just call
that.
it ultimate Pluto platters. I mean, it just rolls right off the tongue.
It's true. It does. It's got alliteration in it too.
Yeah, instead of double disc, double P.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, other thing. Steady Ed Hedrick is the one who had his ashes pressed into frisbees and given to family members and friends
All right.
when he passed.
That's commitment.
Yeah.
Let's go throw Eddie around.
Yeah.
So Mary, what about you?
Eddie's not that steady.
What's your spring activity, Mary?
I mean, I don't know. It's hard. Like Keith, I grew up in the South, and so it's warm all the time. So I don't have something. And I didn't do organized sports where it's like it's baseball season. So I don't know.
You
Sitting
didn't get.
under a tree and
Easter.
smelling flowers.
No, I don't know. Easter.
Did you get?
That's
Did
the
you
only
get?
thing I can think of. I mean, I did outdoor activities, but I did them all the time.
So in your Easter basket, when you got a little too old for like stuffed animals or whatever, did you ever get anything that was like, I don't know, like
A baseball.
Oh, my mom did the best
tennis
Easter baskets.
equipment?
Tennis equipment. No.
Hey, what about tennis? Because you come from a big tennis family.
Yeah, my dad tried to teach me tennis, and I was like,
He tried.
okay, I'll do this for a little bit, but I'm a grumpy teenage girl, so then I kind of dropped out of it. But I would stand in the driveway and bounce the ball on the tennis racket for like a long time, and I had a big bulge in my wrist just from doing that.
Nice.
Would you do the one where you'd go from like face, edge, face, edge, face?
No,
where you
I
bounce
wasn't
it
that
off the
fancy.
edge?
I would just flip the racket maybe, but I wouldn't do the edge, I don't think. And we had a basketball hoop in our driveway too, so
Did
you
you
get tennis
used
balls in
to
there?
hit the tennis ball up against the garage door, punk, and hit it against
No.
it'd bounce off the ground to the garage door, bounce.
we didn't
hit,
have a
bounce.
garage door there. We had a carport,
Gotcha.
so couldn't do that. I'd throw basketballs in the hoop. That's about it. But not just spring. Just all the
Any
Just
time of year.
whenever.
hot.
Well, we actually where I lived it down south though, we did have a
Seasons,
very
yeah.
specific spring and winter because we were up in the mountains, so
Oh yeah.
we got enough winter time to finally feel good when spring came around. But growing up, we always got baseball equipment in our Easter baskets after a certain age. So
Oh, nice.
so it was my first like really good mitt that I had up until recently actually was I mean I still have it, it's just broken. Was like an Easter present. It was really
Oh, nice.
yeah.
You can go learn how to play ultimate frisbee on Wikipedia.
Ultimate.
Oh yeah.
Well, before we move on, let's talk about disc golf. Have you ever played disc golf?
I've played like once or twice.
Well-
it's got like it's got poles like with baskets on it, right, to kind of catch that's a pole. They're pole holes.
Well, it's neat. It's so it's got a really satisfying sound associated with it because it's this interesting basket. It's a metal basket, but it's got all these chains hanging down, so you can chuck this frisbee at the chains and it'll stop it in the chains and it'll drop right into the basket. So it's when you do hit the thing, it's like I said, it's a very satisfying noise. In fact, there are a bunch of videos of people getting these kind of like holes in one from way far out, and I think it's called kerplunk.com. I think is the is the thing, but it's like a really it's a fun thing. You can sink as deep as you want to into disc golf just based on like literally dozens and dozens of different discs for different weather conditions, for different like lengths. Like you have like the equivalent of a driver. They call it a driver. This disc, the one.
putters.
Yeah, exactly. They have one that's a putter. Yeah, And so they're all based on like how much spin you need, like at what level it's going to reach the right spin to go in. It's really neat.
Are there disc golf caddies?
No, you
to
kind
advise
of
you?
you kind of walk with like a sling bag with different discs in it.
Are there carts?
Not in any. I'm sure there are, but not in any of the ones. I've only played in 2 different places, and they were both in
I
LA.
think where my brother and his wife walked their dogs. I don't know if they're still near the same property on Nantucket. There's this park that's also a big golf, a disc golf court, but it's nice. I mean, it's just like kind of a wooded walk around an area, but it's nice. It's a little bit smaller than a golf course in terms of the length to holes kind of thing.
We need to do 2 things. We need to start playing Frisbee with Mary.
Yeah.
On the weekends in Park Slope. And we need to go out to LA together and play some disc golf with Platt because it's really fun. And he lives near a couple of well, I haven't been to his new house, but I'm assuming he's near.
There's access to disc golf courses. Cool.
Yeah. In fact, one, if you throw your disc wrong, you can hit like Dodger Stadium because it's like overlooking this cliff. Then Dodger Stadium's right down there. It's wild. I remember when we were playing Frisbee in the Ultimate, whatever you want to call it, at Park Slope, sometimes we would see people would hang up hula hoops in the trees, and they'd made their own makeshift disc golf course
cool.
at Park Slope.
Do you know if there's any courses in the New York area?
Tons in New Jersey. In fact, there's this, if you look up YouTube, like disc golf, there's a guy who's famous for like being able to do like one-hit golf, holes in one from amazing distances. And he's from New Jersey, I think, because a lot of his footage comes from New Jersey. This guy will put his camera on the goal,
yeah.
and then he'll walk to where the tee off station. I'm using these golf terms because they're the same ones they use in disc golf. And so on the YouTube thing, you'll just be looking at what you'll just see is a bunch of trees, and you'll just see this disc come out of nowhere and hit this thing. It's awesome. Later on he's got it so that he's got a split screen where you see him throwing and then you see where it's going to go. It's amazing.
Did you also have the disc cam?
Yeah. No, that would throw off the balance. Come on, man.
Also, it would just be spinning.
Unless you got it on one of them fancy gyroscopes.
Just a drone at that point.
Dude, yeah, you just have set a drone to follow the Frisbee. Oh, sweet.
If your drone could go 5 times faster than a drone.
Dude, and then eventually you'll have drone golf, where you just throw and...
Where you just kind of remote control
you
your drone.
You have to hit the drone with the...
That's World War III. That's going to happen soon.
That's right. We're all throwing our pie
Oh, and they'll have
tins.
cool, retractable blades on them.
Yeah.
All right.
Man, I think we got a movie here.
Yeah, we do.
So you can go learn about Ultimate and Ultimate Frisbee on Wikipedia. There are, I'm sure, if you are near a college town or a park of some sort, there are organizations and groups that gather and play Ultimate. There's this resource called the internet where you can probably find Facebook groups and all kinds of things.
Meetup.com.
There are official Ultimate and Frisbee playing things, and you can probably find official sanctioned games if you wanted to. It's probably not as big as it used to be. I don't really know, but definitely, in the park there are people who play it still, so it's still going on.
I think it's just as big as it's always been.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think we've kind of aged out of it. I know there's a big scene in Baltimore, very competitive leagues.
We could
Good
call
pick.
it Frizz Babies.
And if you
Maybe like solar babies. Yeah, I love it.
and go buy official Whammo Frisbees. They make them in golfing weights and freestyle weights, and they make them in ultimate weights for all the different kinds of sports you want to
Well,
play.
do you guys remember? Okay, so I know we're trying to wrap this up, but I just remembered this. They used to have the product when we were kids that Whammo made, where it was a Frisbee, except it had a cone in the middle.
Oh, for
That was
spinning?
built into the design, and you could just spin on that thing. And some of them had a ball bearing in them or something.
I don't remember
And
that.
then 2 years later, they had the unidentified floppy objects, which was like a Frisbee, but it was made out of this foamy
right.
Nerf stuff. And they were awesome because you could really aim them similarly to a Frisbee. And but they were just like this floppy kind of like.
that reminds me. I played dog frisbee with my dog, and they have similar like floppy all cloth frisbees so that dogs could
not hurt themselves.
I didn't know that.
And it's so much fun because dogs are so good at catching frisbees.
And I love throwing that particular frisbee you're talking about. It's got like a rubber hose around the edge, and then it's the wing of it, the like span of it is all this. Yeah, it's this kind of like really neat, kind of almost canvas, but it's like made out of
crinkly canvas.
Yeah,
a parachute almost.
Yeah, I would call it like the sail fabric. This kind of like almost waxy feeling.
Yeah, and you can almost like crumple it up and throw it, and then it would like unfurl and fly.
Yeah, and they had those like. Do you remember they were just rubber like floppy, super floppy ones? They didn't get much distance, but they would just be like.
Well, that's the one. Those were the UFOs, I think. That's the unidentified floppy objects, I think.
But they were like a silicon or something.
Yeah, or like almost like a really dense foam, almost like.
And then there were, of course, aerobies, the like flying rings.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about aerobies. The thing that always gets lost.
Yeah,
you think it's great.
In a tree.
Yeah, you think an aerobie's great, but it always gets lost.
Yeah.
But what's awesome is you can catch it by sticking your fist through it.
That's true.
And those were easy to catch too because they're just so soft.
But I love the technology that goes into aerobie. If you look at it, it's really like the guy who invented the original Pluto plate or whatever, he used to fly an airplane. If you look at an aerobie, that's a case study for how flight works. It's pretty neat. Yeah. It's like it's how a wing works in that it bends the air above it. There's more resistance on the upper plane than there is on the lower plane. So it's really a really neat device. And I remember when I was a kid, that was the urban legend is like the aerobie you can throw that for 3/4 of a mile.
Yeah.
and boy, we tried to test it a lot.
Get up on a mountain.
That's what we did. Yeah, just chuck it off a mountain, see how far it would fly. It's gone forever.
The same dude went on to invent the AeroPress coffee maker.
The
same inventor
as the aerobie. Mm-hmm. What's the AeroPress?
It's a coffee maker. It looks like a coffee syringe essentially. It makes an espresso style coffee, and it's great. It's like coffee lovers enjoy.
Oh, neat.
Enjoy it.
I'm surprised there's not one here at this office. A lot of coffee lovers.
I think there was back in Greenpoint, but they took it home or something.
Huh? I don't remember. Yeah, maybe.
Like it.
All right, so now we'll wrap it up.
Yeah.
Go play Frisbee. It's nice out.
Get out.
Get out. All right.
Ride your bike there. Why not? Ride your bike to the park with your Frisbee in your bag.
Exactly. So that's, again, the easiest thing. Plus Tron. We didn't even talk about Tron. But we're not going to.
Oh, snap.
So.
I play Frisbee for fun. It's a really good expression for me. I feel like I'm dancing with the disc when it floats. I feel like I'm floating with it. My mind just blanks out and I just go.
Such a question, there are many possible answers, such as hard work.
Years ago, the holy
Feel I'm alone in this whole of existence.
Hey everybody, thanks for listening to the third in our spring episode. I was one of your hosts, John Holt. You can find me on Twitter at Lord Joho and on Instagram at board_ghost. And you can follow my other podcast, which is an RPG storytelling podcast, at boardghost.com. Keith, where can people find you?
You can find me at earthlingkeith.com, and I hope you like it. Jules?
And you can find me on Twitter or Instagram at beautifuljules. And how about you, Mary?
MaryVarn.com and Mary Varn on Twitter and Instagram.
MaryVarn.com.
All right, Jules, before we go into what our next week chat is, what was new to you this week?
New to me, I watched the movie called The Lobster, which came out, I think, in theaters last year. And the trailer made it look really weird, and it was even stranger than I expected. It's sort of an alternate reality future type of movie, but very understated, not sci-fi, but just kind of an alternate
like
culture.
Speculative fiction, fantasy kind of thing.
Yeah, and so it's a world in which being single is bad news, basically. And if you're single for too long, like as soon as you become single as an adult, you're kind of on the clock and you have to find another partner, and you go to the special like hotels where you hope to find a mate. And if you don't make it in time, you end up being turned into an animal, which, they sort of vaguely explain how that happens. And you get to choose your animal, and so obviously the main character picks a lobster. But it's just and so it's this weird, like, kind of repressive culture. In addition to the premise and the world being a bit odd, so are the people and the way they act, which is the part I didn't quite expect, where everyone's sort of more formal and almost like childlike, I would say. It's really it's a great cast, really well acted, and so it's like, kind of simple, but just like fully committed. And I think it was shot in Ireland, and so it's a nice looking film, and I don't know, it's a little long, maybe. It's almost 2 hours, I think.
And there's some punctuations of like brutal animal
yeah,
stuff that kind of come out of, not nowhere, but they're like unforgiving.
Yeah. There's
brutal animal what?
Not just animal, but there is like just
some violence,
some physical violence. So it's kind of very repressive culture, but then there's these kind of like wild moments in a way. I don't know. It was very interesting, and I would recommend it, even though I wish it was like a little bit shorter. But it was like, I thought about it a bunch, and it's, if you want to see something, definitely something different. If you like weird movies, basically, I would recommend it.
And I've heard, again, it's good in that it evokes strong reaction. Like, I haven't heard anyone who's like, it's okay. I've heard people say, like, I did not like that movie. I hated it. And people who are like, that movie was really good. Like, I haven't heard anyone be like, meh on it.
Yeah, it's just, it was super interesting. Like I said, I think just my only complaint was the running time, which felt, but I have that complaint about a lot of films these days. There's some that, like adaptations and things like that, where, where it makes sense or where it flies by, but this was not a story that needed to be that long, I don't think. But it was a neat world they created, if kind of random, maybe.
Do you know what else that team has done or directed?
I don't actually. I should look it up. The director's name is kind of odd. I forget his name, but no. So I actually didn't know much about it at all. I think it's on Amazon Prime.
How did you discover? Okay.
Yeah. Which Prime has just been adding tons and tons of stuff.
Stepping it up.
Yeah,
that's good.
Lots of movies, and obviously they're producing tons of movies. They're spending almost as much money as Netflix. It's nuts.
They got a bunch of TV too right now.
Yeah,
a bunch of DreamWorks stuff.
Yep, it's crazy.
But I don't ever get to watch it because it's not on Apple TV.
It's directed by
it's annoying.
Yorgos Lanthimos.
All right.
And he's a
glad we looked that up.
He's a Greek filmmaker.
What other stuff has he made?
Dogtooth. Another movie called Alps. The Killing of a Sacred Deer is upcoming. Kaneta Attenberg. My Best Friend. So I don't know, a bunch of other indie films.
Stuff.
I think I had heard of Dogtooth, but that's about it.
That sounds familiar. All right. Good pick. So who is up next? Jules, I think you actually are also going to be up.
Spring break.
All right. So what are you bringing to the table?
I'm bringing a film called Spring Breakers, directed by Harmony Korine.
All right.
And you can go to our website and check it out. And I would watch it before we discuss it.
Cool. It's on iTunes, Amazon, the kind of streaming right now, right?
It's on Showtime for free. If you have Showtime, otherwise you gotta rent it or buy it.
Yep.
Cool. All right. So, gang, to find out more about Ultimate and the product Frisbee, and to check out the other stuff we talked about on the show, go to newtousshow.com, our website. You can follow us on Twitter at newtousshow. And if you have a moment, just tell someone about the show. And also go on iTunes and review and rate. That's how more people learn about the show randomly on iTunes. But really go tell someone else about the show if there's something interesting we talked about that you think someone else might be interested in. Also, if you have thoughts on one of these things that we've talked about, that's something we didn't bring up, let us know. Or something that you vehemently disagree with or agree with, let us know. You can contact us through the website or reach out to us on Twitter. We would love to hear from y'all. Gang, may not be new, but maybe it was new to you.
Explosion sound.
It's all about the music. This pitiful life is all about the music. This pitiful life is all about the music.
With him together forever, without the limitation of time and space, ever again. So the second coming of the Lord is not dead. They're two separate